Good afternoon. My name is Gareth Beverley and I'm from a company called Consortiq. We are drone enablers. We help other companies to use drones via consultancy training and then flying, doing proof of concepts and capturing data for them. It's lovely to be here today. Thanks for those who have attended and thanks for those who have signed up. Just a couple of quick notes before we start properly. Copy of the slides we sent to you. There will also be a recording of this presentation on the YouTube channel, the CSAIS YouTube channel. That's hard to say. And if you have any questions, just pop them into the chat and we'll get to them if we have time at the end. So without further ado then, we are talking about drones and surveying and how they fit in with probably the property life cycle and maybe some barriers as to why not everybody's doing it yet, and then kind of how my company and our philosophy can maybe help with that. And we're going to give you an ebook at the end that covers some of this as well. So it's a lot of information to throw at you. Hopefully some of it's really interesting for you and gives you some ideas. And if you need any help, just drop myself a line, or my colleague Jen is here as well. And at the end there's an email contact. So like I say, questions, you're just inspired, drop one of us a line and we can have a chat about it because we love this stuff. So without further ado, the drones. Typically, we're not talking about the big military stuff. We are talking about civilian, small drones, and they're used for several different operations. And the benefits of them are that you're getting improved accuracy. So you are capturing data to a much higher standard than you could do with kind of the human eye and probably traditional techniques. You're getting cost effectiveness, so you're getting automation, you're getting data collection that means that you are reducing the amount of time you need on site for jobs. You're getting better reporting because there's software tools that allow you to kind of stack data on top of each other, see timelines, create reports, and just generally help make better decisions. And you're getting real-time data, so you can provide live feeds from cameras or integrate sensors and then can bring it all together in one sort of software platform. So what do you use drones for? This is a report done by McKinsey, management company, and they came up with 5 categories, although they do cheat because there's kind of 6, but I'll tell you that in a second. So the first one is visualization. That is using cameras for photos and video, whether that is kind of surveying style photos and photogrammetry and using them to make models of some kind with visual data, or just taking pretty pictures. Using drones for visualization is really common. Operations then slightly different. It's where the drone has some sort of tool that is used to perform a different function. So you've got one now for non-destructive testing where it can push a sensor up against a surface and measure the thickness. And radioactive sensors, things like that. There are all sorts of different operational pieces to it. The third one then is entertainment or advertising. If you've seen sort of the drone shows, the light displays, one of our sister company did the New Year celebration 2023 into 2024, and you saw it at King's Coronation as well. That's becoming more and more popular, either as an alternative to fireworks or in addition to. And certainly one of my favorite places, theme parks, they're doing loads with them now. So that's a real big area. Less interest to you, but still exciting. The fourth one, signal emission. What does that mean? That's where you put a drone up in the sky and it's got some sort of communications device on it, like a mobile phone sensor or network cell, to allow you to communicate via the drone into a mobile phone network. So it's really good for disaster recovery scenarios, maybe where the pylons have all been wiped out by a tsunami or something, and you put this platform up and it can fly for 3 months without landing, and you're providing kind of mobile phone coverage to the people in the affected area. And finally, movement, and this is where they have cheated, moving of people and then things. So that is urban air mobility, flying taxis, whatever you want to call that. That is the movement of people, and for me, it's a very different ball game to traditional drones because of the fact that people are in the vehicle. Normally, the whole benefit of a drone is there's no person involved, so adding them back in makes the safety kind of much more complicated. finally, movement of goods, and that is deliveries, drone deliveries, whether that is cups of coffee from Walmart or delivering chemotherapy, which is a project we're involved in from Southampton to the Isle of Wight. And that's a real growth area as well. And I think as you see bigger drones, they're able to ship more bigger items around. So how do they fit then into the property life cycle and kind of your surveying type roles? I've roughly broken this out to the four phases of a property life cycle as I see it. And they fit in all of them with various things that we'll go into in detail with examples, thankfully, rather than just PowerPoints. So fit in a design phase, during build, during the actual in-service operation of a building, and then when you want to sell it or end of life the building as well. So in the design phase then, one of the main ones that we use it for is site mapping. So pre-construction, you are trying to get an assessment of the ground that you want to turn into a location for a building. And you maybe want to take away the vegetation and look at the ground underneath it and see maybe how much you need to flatten the area by using a drone with a site mapping capability, flying at high altitude to then capture the data of a wide area, gives you this kind of situational awareness inside a site map, and you can use that as the basis for some of the other things as well. Second one is a planning model. So the example I use is that we created a 3D model of a building that was going to be built, and then it was used by residents in the area to check sight lines from their windows. So the idea was they could go in, into a model of their house, look out their back window, and see whether they could see the top of the building, whether it's going to be an eyesore for them, and whether they could therefore have a planning objection. It's that kind of thing that then gets the speeds up the planning process and make sure that you're getting engagement early on from everyone. So you've done the design stuff and now you're going to build it. This is where you're looking at progress tracking on site. So looking at obviously you're trying to keep a project on cost, on budget and on time, and maintain quality. And as we all know, that's really difficult. So being able to see progress photos and progress tracking is incredibly important. And this allows you to make sort of better decisions earlier in the cycle rather than almost towards the end. Stockpile and volumetric analysis. So again, if you're building on a site and you've planned to take away a certain amount of earth, then you know that if you try to get more of that and you maybe agreed a rate up front, if you try and take away more, you have to pay extra for that. So we had a client who estimated a certain amount of tonnage being taken away, and when they got to the actual, it was vastly, huge amount more, and it would have cost them about £1 million in cost there. So they could avoid that with a volumetric analysis at the start, coupled with that topographic survey to help them understand how much earth would be removed, means that there's instant savings across a project. So into building operation then, this is where it's sort of mostly inspections and maintenance, and the examples I've got here are from more of our commercial kind of works in industrial sectors, but it's all relevant data. So inspections then, effectively you want to use a drone for anything that's where you're putting humans at risk by either making them climb up high or putting them into confined spaces. And using this, you can start to see, rather than putting somebody in a cherry picker or there's a crane or something like that that has to be used to visualize something, you can fly the drone and get much higher quality data quicker, and you can therefore make decisions easier. So that left-hand image there, you can see some of the tops of the restraining bolts are missing, they've sheared off. Obviously you can't see that from the ground because it probably looks okay. The top right there is some bulging on a chimney stack that was being decommissioned, and because it was decommissioned and it wasn't heating up, the bricks expanded, and again from the ground it looked fine, but then they had to put remedial action in place to make sure that those bricks wouldn't then pop out and fall on somebody from something like 120 feet up. And then on the bottom right, that's just where some nuts have come loose and you're trying to create an action plan. So what you can be doing is using the drone to look over a wider area quicker, find areas of problem areas and then sending a team to look at those specific areas, rather than having to send a team to look everywhere, which, you know, it's a huge amount of time and money, and then, you know, then they actually only do the actions on the specific areas. The other side is then, of course, if you need parts for that, you can order the parts in advance and have them when the team are at site ready, rather than maybe having to have a giant bucket of parts. So the benefits on the inspection side are massive. Also looking at thermal, so a common thing at the moment is to add thermal panels to the roof of every single building to help reduce your Scope 1 emissions. This obviously turns every building really into a solar farm, and, you know, they need to be looked after to ensure they're operating effectively. And drones and scanning with a thermal camera can help to identify problem areas much quicker. And as far as I know, no human has been born with thermal sight yet, so it's the one thing where you can't just do it by eye. 3D modeling then, so you've taken some 2D imagery, you've flown around, and you actually want to build something in a computer that then, you know, you can manipulate and maybe tag with data. And this is where the 3D model comes in. You can create using a variety of different means, but effectively you go in, you either take loads of photos and you bring them together and make a model, or you can use something called LiDAR, which you probably all know what LiDAR is, but you can use aerial mounted in a drone and then use that to create the point cloud and the model from there. Depends on the resolution of data you need, depends what the use case is. You know, again, you have to find the right tool for the job. The drone itself is just a thing to carry a sensor, and what you do with that data is the really important part, rather than just the drone itself. Inaccessible areas, so if you're building around waterside anywhere, rather than having to stick somebody in a boat to look at the quayside, so you fly the drone over the water. One of our clients up north was saying that they had to get, you know, a boat with safety personnel and an inspector. You know, it's a really time and resource intensive task, whereas obviously if you fly the drone over the water, you know, absolute worst case, it falls into the water and you've lost a piece of equipment, not a person. But generally these days they're very reliable if you manage them correctly, and so that rarely happens. Finally, again, most buildings have comms towers on them of some kind for mobile phones and things, so being able to scan that and see what the real estate available is to a mobile phone network to fit out new masts and things. It was really important when people are going from 4G to 5G, and probably when they go from 5 to 6G or whatever is next, that sort of thing will become useful again. So it's just another tool in the toolbox really for the building kind of operator and owner, or the asset or the mast owner. Digital asset modeling. This is one of our sort of favorite ways, because this encapsulates something I'm really passionate about, which is scan once, use many. And this is where we took internal data from a tripod mounted LiDAR sensor, you know, like a, what is it, RTC 360 or something, then merged that data with drone-based LiDAR data and a 3D model into a software tool that then gave us these three views you kind of see in that window. So you've got almost like the left-hand big window is like a street view using the LiDAR data. The top right is the pure 3D model, like a BIM style model. And then the bottom right there is the actual kind of street view photography using the 360 photos that take place inside the LiDAR sensor. So the idea is that then you can be using this for different things. So you can tag it, you can add in maintenance data, you can then pass it over to maybe the security teams for floor plans, you know, fire and emergency personnel for that. You can be looking at outside cladding if it's like a residential building and things, and figuring out, you know, fixing points and access points. And then you can even give it to the marketing team and they can create pretty screenshots to share somewhere if they need to be sold or something. So when you're using drones and you're deploying this digital technology, there can be quite a kind of big barrier to entry, in that it's hard to get started. And I'll talk about this in a minute. But the more output you can get and the more stakeholders you can have drawing down on that technology makes that kind of business case and much more compelling. So that scan once, use many, I think, is really important for the success of kind of a digitization program, whether that's with drones or other technology as well. And let's face it, everybody probably has a BIM model, but who uses that on a day-to-day basis? And would other teams benefit from the use of something similar, even though it's maybe not a BIM model, with just another layer of data on top of that, whether that's asset tagging and procedures or just floor plans. This is another snazzy slide from the same project we did. So you can see there more of the same. The digital model there in big, and then the top one is, you can just see a floor plan there on that top screen as well. So putting all that data together in one screen that different stakeholders can access, and they can use different permissions and things like that. The tool is I would say it's irrelevant. This is one tool of many that does something similar. It's more important to think about the concept, and like I say, that sort of data output and stakeholder management. So what happens when the building's done? So we've seen this a few times where certain properties, they benefit from sort of aerial photo, which is lovely. Certainly, I presented this to the RICS residential conference team, and they were really excited about this particular slide, despite all the other stuff, which I think is really exciting. But this is one of the common uses, and then the other one really is the reverse of the build phase. It's kind of, what are you doing in decommissioning? The reverse of the volumetrics. How much are you putting back, or how much do you need to order in to make the land good? What do you need to consider when you're deconstructing things and taking it away? So, all right. So some great use cases there. Well, I think so. And I asked the question earlier, why isn't everybody doing this now? Like, why don't you look out your window and see a drone in the sky? And unfortunately, it's just because there are some challenges. I mean, as with all new technology, I say new, I've been doing this 7 years, Consortiq's nearly 10 years old. So for us, it's not new at all, but you still speak to people who think this is a new emerging, cutting, bleeding edge technology. But for us, we're very much in that kind of just, it's day to day for us. It's business as usual technology, and it is for a lot of our clients. So anyway, there's still challenges there, whether that's perception or otherwise. So first one mainly is time and resources. It can take months of effort before you get off the ground, pun intended. What we see is there's a lot of different things that can happen there. You need to assign people to look at it. You need to make it a strategic priority for the business, and then you need a good timeline to which to look at ROI. And if that's not there, it just presents blockers and challenges, and before you know it, you've not done anything for a year, and you're further behind your competition than you were. You need to think about your operating model. Do you want people to fly in-house and do it yourself, or do you want to just outsource all of that, including the risk, and off you go? Again, this depends on the business and the operating model and things like that. Personal preference. We deal with both, and we kind of have a hybrid as well, where some people do the basics and then they ask us to do the advanced stuff. Whatever works for your business is critical. The next one is there are a lot of options. There's loads of hardware. You've got fixed wing that are like planes. You've got multi-copters that are multiple rotors, and they look snazzy and technologically advanced. You've then got sort of the sensors that go on them, and what resolution do you need? 4K, 8K? Do you need a LiDAR? It's endless, and it can be quite daunting to look at this stuff. So, how do you know what's right for you, for your use case, for that data output you want? Like I said earlier, at the end of the day, the drone is just a tool and the sensor's a tool. So you need the right thing for the data that you need. Finally, then, regulatory compliance. Everyone loves compliance, but the drone industry and the drone regulations are not quite constantly moving, but they frequently move. It's still evolving in that sense. So staying compliant with those regulations and use of drones, the use of maybe some other technologies, it can be challenging. And that's often companies start a drone program without realizing that they need to invest in that side of it. And that's where things can fall over. You need somebody who's an accountable manager. They need to know what's happening in the drone world to be able to be accountable for it. And that can be a resource investment that people haven't really considered. And obviously that impacts your ROI along the way. Obviously, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't have some solutions to those challenges. So what we do at Consortiq is we create an operational team within 30 days. This is fairly recent because the regulations just changed to allow us to do this. But we've trained sort of thousands of pilots over the last 10 years. We've built up hundreds of organizations to use drones. So it's nothing new to us, but now we can kind of condense it and get people in there much quicker. So we've come up with this methodology we call PACE, which I'll talk about in a minute, but it's preparation, activation, calibration, and then evaluation. And it's just how we speed things up. We want to make sure that you can run, get started quickly and safely and be compliant, and you've covered all the needs for your business and your data acquisition. And really, it's ideal for anyone who's just, especially in that surveillance piece, that's quite easy. If you want to create 2D, 3D models of a building, or just take pictures or look at things that are at height, this is easy stuff to deploy and you can get running really quickly. So I'll dive into some of the detail on each phase and then I'll be done. So preparation, we need to think about what use cases do you have? What data do you want? What are your kind of success criteria? Is it financial? Is it reducing risk, which is difficult to quantify, but is probably one of the best ones? Or is it something else, something unique to your business? What drones are going to fulfill those needs? What sensors are? How do you build a team that knows what they're doing and they understand both the regulations and their role within the organization and that kind of safety side of things, which is key. So as part of that, we do almost like a little bit of consultancy and help work out all these kind of business cases and things, and then we'll train people, being a certified training entity. So you have to be authorized to train drone pilots by the CAA, so it's really highly regulated. And we've been doing, like I say, we train thousands of pilots. We've been doing that a while. So preparation is obviously key. Time spent preparing is never wasted, as some may know or have heard before. So following that, you then want to activate, and you need to finalize how you're going to operate and put that down on paper into something called an operations manual. You then need all your proper in-depth training conducted for pilots, maybe senior leaders and stuff in the organization as well, because having drones in your organization, so even though I'm the CEO of Consortiq, I don't really get to fly anymore. My team don't let me, but I still need to be aware of who's flying what, the risks, and because there's a crash or something happens, an accident happens, the insurance people might phone me, or if it's really bad, a news site might phone me and ask me, oh, your company was flying a drone today, what happened? Or the CAA might come knocking as well, and the Air Accident Investigation Branch. So knowing kind of all levels what's going on, for someone senior, you don't need to know loads of detail, but you do need to be aware of what's happening, and aware of kind of what the ask might be on you, and prepare for it, like I said. So you're activating that. You're then making sure your equipment is ready to go, and there's steps around that and how you kind of maintain compliance of your equipment. You're calibrating your operation then. So you start to initiate, you start to fly, you've got some experience, and you start to iron out kind of what your workflow looks like. So you've got your operations manual, which is kind of your drone safety processes, but what's your data capture process that wraps around that? This is where you start to develop those. And obviously then you're trying to understand your safety and risk management side of things within your business as well. And it can all be a little bit unique depending on your organization and who sits where and what you do. So finally, you want to evaluate. How do you know things have been successful? How do you know whether you're actually getting back that kind of ROI that we've talked about? You want to assess the effectiveness regularly. KPIs, everyone loves KPIs, well I do. You want to perform some audits, or maybe have someone external kind of check on you. So maybe you've been running a year and you want to see, well, are my pilots doing what they're supposed to do? I recently went up to a client up north, and I would say they're experienced operators, and I sort of sat in and I observed them flying, and I had about a page of notes, and I think it was nothing particularly dangerous or unsafe, but it was just kind of deviation from what they said they would do. And when you're in talking about compliance, and you're talking about flying in the sky with passenger airplanes with hundreds of people in it, deviation from what you've said is not a great place to be. So it can happen to anybody, is my point, and helping to get on track with it is just part of that evaluation process as you go through, whether that's day one, month one, or year 10, doesn't matter. You also want to be planning for scalability as well. How are you going to do more with it? What we found is when we deploy drones into an organization for a specific use case, you then get everybody coming up with ideas. Like I've just presented you 10 more ideas. Well, how about we use drones for this, or what about this? And sometimes you have to dial everyone back and say, well, no, that's not a drone job, that's a camera on a pole job. But I like your enthusiasm. And sometimes you have to think about, okay, well, we've got this starter, how do we grow? And I really like this, but I need it to be more detailed, I need more data. Okay, well, that needs a bigger bit of kit and more expense and blah, blah, blah. How do you plan that out into your flow? So that's critical as part of your evaluation phase. And I would say that the evaluation piece is kind of ongoing after you've qualified, like I said. So we've talked a bit there about how do drones fit in the property life cycle in all phases, really: design, build, operate and sell, or decommission. I mentioned very briefly the working models. So you can either do it yourself, and there's kind of implications with that, like your team have to be trained and you have to be using, you have to have resource available, and maybe you want them doing something else that's more efficient for them or better for them to be spending their time on. You can outsource it all. So just, hey, go and fly for us, chuck us some data, and yeah, great, thank you very much. That doesn't absolve you of all the risk, but that's a great way of keeping your kind of operational costs down. And then you've got the hybrid, which I mentioned, where you can do the baseline and then you ask somebody to do the enhanced stuff. And I think, yeah, it really depends on what you want to achieve, how risk averse you are. When we're working with oil and gas companies, they don't really want to give it to third parties unless they're highly vetted, both with skills and kind of the company as a whole. So they want it in-house, whereas some of the other organizations are happy to delegate and let the third party run with it. Depends on your personnel as well. How open are they to doing this? Some people are really excited, others just see this as another thing they've got to do and they're not so happy. And depends on your budget. Bringing it in-house can be cheaper, but outsourcing it all might be the better option for your kind of what's it called, operating costs versus kind of your capex costs, really, effectively. So you've got that, and then, like I said, the PACE methodology: preparation, activation, calibration, and evaluation. That's how you can speed up the deployment, and how we say we can get it done in 30 days. And if it's not done in 30 days, we'll work with you until it's done for free, our little guarantee. So just to close out, then, these slides will be sent out, and we're going to include that an ebook, which is our 30-day program ebook. Kind of reiterate some of that PACE methodology, gives a few more examples, so that you can kind of understand it and maybe get to grips with it. But if you do have any questions, you can either email us on talk2@consortiq.com. I'm not giving my email because I go on holiday in a couple of days, and I thought giving my email and then not answering for 2 weeks would probably not be very good. So if we use Talk2, that's a managed email box, and you'll get to somebody who knows exactly what they're talking about, who can help you without a problem. Finally, you can also connect with me on LinkedIn. That's my QR code there for my personal LinkedIn. I talk a lot about this stuff all the time. I'm really passionate about innovation, digital twins, and kind of operational processes and safety. It's much more exciting on LinkedIn than it sounds. So feel free to connect with me, and then you can ask questions as well as you go. That is all I have. So I don't know if we have any questions. If we want to manage those. So do we have any questions? Heather, I might need a bit of help here.
I'll just check for you, won't be a second.
Thanks. I can see something, but oh, okay. I see one that's currently a teacher at Fareham College, working with DJI Minis, looking at possible surveys later. Excellent. We used to be based at the Fareham Innovation Centre, which obviously is just around the corner, well, just literally across the road from one of the Fareham College campuses. And when we were there, they were just building the piece down the end, which I think was the surveying and construction kind of school. So, I mean, that's fantastic. DJI Minis is a really great bit of kit. They are, Coke can size when they're folded up. They're in this special category, for those that don't know, that are like under 249 grams. So it means you don't need lots of permission to fly. But you think something that big, it's got a very specific kind of use case. And yeah, I wouldn't say buy that and then you've got all your needs are solved, but they're certainly great things to be starting out with or very specific use cases. So they're really good. And absolutely surveys, yeah, you can move on. Do the survey, the mini, and then build up to a bigger piece of kit with a higher resolution sensor. It's a great workflow. So excellent. Yeah, we used to love Fairham College. We tried to get something going with them about using, training and things, but it didn't come off. And then when COVID came along, we closed the office, and we're all at home now, aren't we? So yeah. Anything else? Oh, got somebody here. Somebody went to us for our PFCO. Thank you. What was that? Russell. Oh, I recognise the name. Excellent, Russell. Oh yeah, we've been training pilots for a long time, and we're still going. There might be some changes coming to the rules probably at the end of the year, but and they're going to be on their third one. So you had a PFCO, it's now the GVC and the A2 CFC, and then they're looking at something else which is, I can't remember now, RPC, remote pilot something. But we're working on that already, and the idea is that if you come and train with us, we'll just give you the next load of training as part of that. So, especially where we know it's coming, we want people to get running quickly, and then as the regulations change, we can help you work through it and get you up to date on the new thing. But as with the transition last time, you'll get a grace period as well. So you don't need to worry about, if I invest now, do I have to invest again later? Not only will we help you through it and give you the material, but also the CAA give you a grace period, so it's great. Cool. What's the cost? Train an individual for visualization only. What would be the cost? Great question. I don't know that off the top of my head, to be honest. So traditionally we do the GVC type training, which is a pilot going, not going from zero to hero. They already have some experience with the drone and they have the flight hours required. And then we do all the regulatory training. We do a flight skills assessment to make sure they're safe to fly. That then ticks you off to that. And then for corporate clients, we do the kind of end-to-end, what I would call zero to hero. So we do the 2 days of flight training, we do the GVC stuff, and then we do a scenario specific data capture thing. So at the minute, I don't know what it'd be for an individual, but it's something that Jen and I have been talking about. So if I can catch your details at some point, I can get back to you. Great. Any more? That's all the questions I can see.
There's a question here from Anna. She's asking what cost savings can be achieved for local authorities from using drones. This is especially relevant given that local authorities in the UK are facing challenging finances.
Yeah. Well, okay. I think the cost savings can be as much as you need. Really vague, but I would start with something like scaffolding costs. You can really bring down the usage of your scaffolding for inspections, and that we know typically can run sort of 6 figures on a building. So you can save that every time with investing sort of a few thousand into a drone and a program. So you can start seeing that benefit straight away. Then you get into the kind of the other use cases, and so it's kind of difficult to quantify beyond that, but I would certainly say that's a great starting point and an easy justification. When we're working with the more corporate clients, we're saving them to the tune of $5 to $10 million, £1 whichever one, both, a year. So you can think if that scales into a local government entity, you can be saving a few $100,000 easily into the millions, if you really push the use cases and things. Oh, is that another one in there? Oh, okay. Oh, thank you. Yeah, confirmation about getting back to you about the individual training. Thanks very much. I'll copy and paste that. Thanks, Leon. Okay. That's not coming up on my screen. So yeah, right, copy and paste that out. Great. I think that's it. I can't see any more. Heather, is there anything else, or just to reiterate, recording being on the YouTube channel, slide packs coming out by email, and we'll send you an ebook. And if you have any questions, email talk2@consortiq.com.
That's everything covered, Gareth, and thank you for answering all the questions. Thanks for your very valuable time, and Jen for setting everything up with me. And have a great holiday, and thanks for everyone for tuning in today.
Yeah, thank you very much to all the attendees. We had 102, so more than I expected. So I think Heather, you won that. But yeah, great stuff. Thank you very much to everyone who attended and watched. And to those in the future watching it back, thank you as well. Great. Thanks, Heather.